What's going on, everybody? Very special guest today, coming off a huge submission victory. Darce Choke, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Julian Juicy J. Erosa. Woo! Yeah. How's it going,
Thank
man?
you, man. Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, dude, it's our honor. It's our honor. Trust me. Before we get into the fight, real quick, how's your day going today, man?
Oh, it's going all right. It's an average day. Got up and did some training, and then I'm kind of running around doing errands and stuff.
Yeah. No, hey, you know what, dude? During the fight, and I know I'm already jumping into the fight. You had, it seemed like you were a little bit busted up. It looks like you recovered already. It's incredible.
Yeah, I got a couple of stitches above my left eye. You can kind of see if I
Oh,
do
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but besides that, I mean, a couple of bumps and bruises, but overall, everything's pretty healthy, and I'm feeling pretty good still.
Yeah. No, definitely. And about the fight, I mean, dude, it was crazy. It was you were, of course, I don't know if you knew. I mean, I'm sure you knew you were an underdog in the fight. Um, and dude, it was just crazy. It was that third round that Darce choke out of nowhere. Is that something you practice on a lot? How did that come about?
Yeah, I would say the Darce choke is probably my favorite choke to do. I'm long and lanky, and I can catch punches from everywhere. If you watch like a guy like Tony Ferguson, that
Yeah.
guy has a different Darce chokes, and he's able to like kind of like lock it in different spots. And I want to, I kind of resemble, or I try to like emulate my Darce choke after Tony Ferguson's, and I think that's kind of what I was able to show on this last fight. I kind of get a standing Darce, drag him to the ground, and finish. But honestly, I would say the Darce choke is probably about my most common sub that I do when I grapple and even when I'm sparring and stuff. So, but I've been getting even better at it. I fixed up a couple details on it and even told my friends that I train with and my wife and my coaches and stuff that if we get to the ground, I'm going to Darce choke this kid. I've just been catching every day, in training against some of the best guys in the world. So I knew if I got it locked up, it was going to be the end for him.
Yeah, no, definitely. And dude, I mean, he's a stud. He was 7-1, or he was, at the time. Now he is. What was your thoughts going into the fight? Yeah, obviously, I'm sure you had a good game plan. What was your thought? I know, again, it was other stuff we could talk about. We know you were in the UFC, then out, then in. I mean, what was the thought process going into this fight?
Oh well, it was kind of a short amount of time that I had, preparing for this kid. But
Five
we train
days,
every.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I was told on Tuesday that I was having the fight for sure, and so
My
we
God.
only had 2 days to really think about it. And most of those times, most of those days were doing medicals and getting my weight down, and then cutting the weight and all that kind of stuff. But there was times I was thinking about what would work best for a guy like that, and
Mhm.
obviously he's probably the only guy I've ever fought that was taller and lankier than I was at featherweight. I'm 6'1" and I got a pretty long reach, and that kid's 6'3" and 79-inch reach. So there's
Ridiculous.
definitely a little bit of disparity in the distance and the height and the range between us. But I figured I couldn't be like I couldn't try to do I couldn't try to beat this kid in boxing. I had to make it an MMA fight. I had to make it kind of dirty and kind of a little bit gritty. And I think that's what eventually set up the Darce choke was just me being in his face, throughout the whole second round and beginning of the third round. And, he was a guy that wasn't going to go out on the feet. I mean, I would have really had to put him out on the feet, but I figured if I put him in a compromising position on the ground, eventually he would give up and he would, be willing to look for a way out of the fight. And, eventually after I, lock his neck up, he even puts his hand out and gets ready to tap, so you could see he was, pretty much done with the fight. He took some bumps and bruises just like I did, and I feel like my will to win was a little stronger than his that night. But nothing but respect for the kid. He took a beating. We both did. We beat the crap out of each other, and then I was lucky enough to get his Darce choke on him, and I was able to set that up.
No, dude, congratulations to you. I mean, it was a hell of a fight, and you got the choke at the buzzer. It was sick. It was awesome watching on TV. Can't even imagine being over there. With this fight, how was there any part of you that was hesitant about taking a fight on a 5 days notice? Because I mean, of course, you know more than anybody, right? There's 6, 10, 8, 12-week training camps. 5 days is insane. I mean, that's something that even makes me nervous right now. I'm not even a fighter. So, I mean, that's crazy.
You know, I mean, obviously, I was gonna take the fight regardless.
Yeah.
It was my shot to get back in the UFC, and so
Hmm.
I was going to fight anybody. I can't be picky about it. I was just, I would accept any fight that was coming. But with this whole pandemic thing, a lot of people were getting short notice calls, and so I was just making sure I was staying ready, and I was just as good a shape as I was, in a fight camp because I basically the last 8 weeks have been a fight camp for me. I've been just
Mm.
training and staying on top of it. And every week prior to this, that the UFC had fights at the Apex, I was considering every single week to be a weight cut week. So I would start
Wow.
my Sunday, I'd have like 2 gallons of water, and then I would slowly start tapering off my water just in case I was supposed to get a short notice fight. And
Wow.
and then every Friday, if I didn't get a fight, I'd go have a cheat meal and kind of enjoy myself for the night. But then go back on it that next week, and every single week was basically the same. And luckily enough, I kind of kept to a schedule and was pretty diligent about it. And that way, if I got a fight like I did, I could still make probably. I was a couple pounds away from making featherweight, so which is where I truly fight at. But luckily he wanted to do 150. I think the fight before that he was matched up. They agreed to do a catch weight. So
Yeah.
um, so for me that was that worked out good. But I mean I was only a couple pounds away from making actual featherweight. I got as low as 48 and a half. So 2.5 pounds away. I could have made featherweight if I needed to on a 5 days notice. So that's about as close as I could get to a fight and make it, that quickly. But I was being diligent. I was prepared beforehand. I knew that the UFC were running out of guys. I mean, there was guys fighting twice in 3 or 4 weeks, and
Crazy.
not even random guys, like good UFC guys. So I knew they were running out of guys, and I knew there were going to be spots opening up. I mean, there was weeks before where things would open up, and I would almost get the call, but they would pick somebody else over me. But I was still in the top dudes on the list to fill in short notice. So luckily, I have management that kind of helped me through that period. Told me, hey, stay ready, and gave me the
Yeah.
encouragement. Said if I told them if they're doing their work, I'm doing my work, and so if it just came together, that it would work out good, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, no, and hats off to you, man. You mentioned cheat meal. I love food. I'm a sucker for food, man. What's your go-to cheat meal? What's your favorite cheat meal?
Oh man, it's really not the food anymore, man. The whole food is beer. I just
Yeah.
so so if I can have a couple of beers, those are the empty calories I try to maintain. If me and my wife, we went out and had a cheat meal actually the Friday beforehand of my fight, and uh, I, I thought about having a burger, but I told myself if I have something a little bit cleaner, I had a salad and a tri-tip and some ribs and some green beans. But I was like, if I do that, then I can switch over and have a couple of beers. So I was willing to
Yeah.
sacrifice the better food. And also, the food is really good, but I love having a bacon cheeseburger with some fries, but
Preach,
I'll give up those
preach.
carbs and those calories and use it with my beer. So I was able to have a couple of beers, and I was more than happy to sacrifice a little bit of food for the beer. But now I don't got to worry about it, so I can kind of eat and drink whatever I want for right now. But I try to stay on top of my diet as much as possible.
No, for sure, man. And obviously, you're in great shape. I try to lift, here and there. I'm not a professional fighter like yourself, but try to stay in shape here and there. What does a good training day consist for you? Not necessarily during like fight, during when you're gonna fight, but just weights, cardio, stuff like that.
Yeah, we have so many training sessions that it's we're kind of on a schedule right now. We're usually doing 2 a days, Monday through Friday. So just a
Okay.
typical, and even if even in between fight camps, unless it's like right now, like obviously right now my eyes kind of busted up, and I don't want to be sparring super hard right now. I got bumps and bruises I need to heal up. But even if I don't have a fight, even if it's between fight camps, um, my typical training is pretty much the same as it would be if I was getting ready for a fight. But
Oh, okay.
Monday through Friday, I get a 9 a.m. workout. Usually it's drilling or pad sessions, and then you know, uh, and then Monday through Friday about 3:30 we do like more of live gov. So it's we usually do like some live grappling, some live wrestling. We'll spar. Um, sometimes I'll go hit a long bike ride or do things like that. But usually it's 2 days, Monday through Friday, and then I kind of freestyle on the weekends and then do my own thing. But it's all pretty similar, whether it's in between a fight or if it's during a fight camp. So I just try to maintain the same structure. That way, my body's not up and down. It just kind of stays stagnant where it needs to be. If I stop working out as much and eat more, I gain weight like crazy. I'm just so tall.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I wish I had that problem, dude. I wish I had that problem. Um, Being that your training sessions are very similar in between, fight weeks or fight months or or non-fight times, is that why you were besides being like, hey, I'm gonna take the fight no matter what? Is that why you're so ready to take the fight because it's so similar?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
The 2 weeks beforehand, I'm training with Dan Ige, who's actually getting ready to fight Island on a main event
Awesome.
against Calvin Kattar. He's one of my main training partners, and so he's been getting ready for that fight. And the 2 weeks before that, I sparred him both Tuesdays and both Thursdays. Me
Jeez.
and him basically got to a 3-round fight, and then I also helped Boston Solomon, who used to be in the UFC, and he's actually fighting LFA July 11th. And so
Nice.
I was helping both those guys get ready Tuesday and Thursday the week before, and then the week before that Tuesday and Thursday. And I basically had a fight both those. I mean, 4 times, within 2 weeks. So leading up to this, I was already getting ready. I was already,
Hmm.
in shape, and so having those sparring sessions and having those training partners really helped and set this up to be a successful night for me. Even though when people think 5-day notice, they may think I'm like, coming off the couch or I'm fat, I'm sloppy, I'm lazy. But
Yeah.
I truly love doing this stuff. So, regardless if I have a fight or not, I'm going to be in the gym training.
That's awesome, dude. That's super awesome. Um, One thing I did want to ask you before I do forget, I'm sure you've heard of the whole situation that went on last week, Robert Drysdale and Max, right? Okay,
Yep.
great, great. Me and my buddy talked about it. Of course, we're not fighters, but we see both perspectives. We hear people on ESPN talk about it. We hear fighters on ESPN talk about it. We hear different perspectives. You being a fighter, I'd like to know your perspective about it, if you don't mind.
Well, it's even closer to me because Max used to be one of my main training partners too.
Yeah,
He was for a long time. He intermixed with 10th Planet Las Vegas as well. So, and Max is a stud in the gym.
super stud.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's the shitty thing about it. A lot of people, especially people who like to talk crap, they only see what happens in the octagon. They don't see, you
The
know,
keyboard warriors, bro.
exactly. And but even like, even other fighters that I've never trained with Max, you know, before this all happened, if they would have came to Extreme or if they would have went to Robert Drysdale's jiu-jitsu gym or they would have went to 10th Planet and Max would have been there, those guys would have been super impressed by Max. And so, just because he might not have it in him to be a fighter, and I don't know if it's he's just been wrestling his whole life and he's just kind of fed up with competition and just can't handle it anymore. Whatever the situation is, you know, uh, at least he learned it. I mean, at least he's figured it out now. I mean, if he gets another shots, whatever. I mean, I think he would. I think he has some soul searching to do, and I think he has some mental building for himself as well. But if he doesn't want to be a fighter, then by all means, don't be a fighter. I would tell him just to not push any further for it. It's obvious. It was pretty evident that he didn't want it, and I feel bad for him. Because one day you can be one of the biggest prospects. And people would just thinking that. I mean, I've seen Max throw around UFC guys in the gym that were welterweights and and middleweights. I've seen, and he's a 55er, and that kid's has so
He's
much
a
potential,
stud.
but
Yeah.
like most coaches say and most people say, the fighting game is 90% mental, and so you can be as good as you want, but if you don't have that mental strength and that mental ability to push through that kind of stuff, then it's not for you. And I don't feel bad. Uh, I don't feel bad about the situation. I think some people are talking crap about it, but I feel for the kid. It's a tough road to go down. I've lost in front of people, and they don't know the type of work that I put in the gym, and so they can be heartbreaking for people to lose fights or even to give up like that. So I just hope he's able to bounce back and just be back to normal. Because I could see him get into like a depression and stuff, and and that kind of sucks to hear. But yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully he figures it out.
Yeah, no, dude, I appreciate your perspective. And as far as that depression thing, I did see a post interview, and I did kind of get that sense about him. So I do hope things clear up. But yeah, dude, as far as the keyboard warrior thing, of course, like us, everybody, we like to talk about the current topics, but that shit angers me, bro, because it's like, dude, he could probably fuck up 99% of the people out there, you know what I mean? Especially the ones talking about him. So it's crazy. Do hope the best for him, though. Appreciate your inside information also. Last thing about it, do you understand the perspective from Drysdale also?
Oh yeah, yeah. 100%.
Okay.
Even my Casey Halstead was like, you better believe that if you're trying to give up on the stool, and I don't think you've taken that much damage, I'm gonna try to get you back in the game, and
Yeah.
that's what a coach is gonna do.
Yep.
The coach is the one who should call the fight, but he should exhaust that 60 seconds in the break and really try to get you back on your bike, because Max still had a full 5 minutes. He could have still won that round, or he still could have won that fight.
Yeah.
But he just didn't have it in him, and so Drysdale was, it was good on him to, push for 60 seconds to try to get him in that fight again. And obviously, he had to call the fight. But people were talking shit about Drysdale. I mean, Drysdale was just trying to get his fighter back in the game, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if a fighter hasn't taken that much damage. And Max took a little bit, but not enough to call the fight.
Yeah, no, and Drysdale's one of the best in the world too. That's why, let's try to look at both sides of the spectrum from it. But again, appreciate your information, your perspective about it, bro.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Quick segue into the quarantine. Has that affected you at all? How have you been spending your time during it?
Oh, the quarantine has actually been pretty good. I mean, obviously everything kind of sucks with having a pandemic, but the quarantine has been just giving me, extra time just to do, just to train, make sure my body was in shape. We have nothing else to do. Everybody's kind of sitting at home. We've been like creeping into people's garages. We got mad. I've been doing kind of the underground training, and also adding some bike rides and long runs and stuff like that. So it was kind of a time period where I felt like I knew everybody else was kind of taking it as a vacation, and so
Okay.
if I capitalized on it and made sure that I was in shape, that if I got a short notice fight like I did, I'd be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, no, awesome. Being that you are a professional fighter, and we've talked to a few other ones too, has it affected your way of training at all, or not so much?
Well, for sure it did. I mean, all the big gyms were closed, and so we kind of had to, me and my buddy that was living with me, we bought some mats, and we, got our
Jeez.
grappling pads in, we got things in like that, and then went to other people's houses who had mats as well, and kind of had to sneak around and try to get as much training as we possibly could. Some people were talking down on it, like you guys need to make sure you're quarantining, but for me, I was willing to risk it. I think it's all about doing what you love to do, regardless of the consequences. And we love to train, and so we got it in. And sure enough, it ended up paying off. I could have been a fat boy and been on the couch drinking beer every day, and could have this opportunity could have came, and I could have been 180 pounds and said no because I couldn't make the weight. So luckily enough, I have a lot of people around me that are have the same kind of mindset, that are willing to get the training in regardless of the circumstances, and we were able to make it work and make it happen, and it got me prepared for this situation.
Awesome. Last thing about the quarantine, there's a lot of uncertainty going on about it. I don't really listen to the news anymore because I feel like there's new stuff every day about it. In your perspective, when do you see an end game for it? Do you think it's just going to stay like this for years on end, or what would your solution be for this?
Man, I honestly have no idea. Obviously, I'm not a scientist or
Yeah.
anybody in that kind of field that would have any idea. I mean, and we're all going off other people's opinions, and there's opinions on either
Exactly.
side. But if it stays like this, I mean, it's ideal for fighters. I mean, me being back in the UFC, we're the only sport on that's being advertised and is being televised. So for me, in that sense, it's a lot of good exposure, and I could see myself getting a lot of fights in this situation. And but it is what it is. Hopefully, it doesn't last around too long because everybody wants to go back to normal. But it is what it is. I'm willing to stay in this quarantine as long as possible and just keep just doing what I'm doing. I get to train every day, so I'm happy.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Um, Now, you personally, what are some things that your fans don't necessarily know about you? Go ahead and share some if you don't mind.
Oh man, I guess a lot of my fans don't know I used to skateboard. Used to be pretty good at that.
Oh, wow.
Same with snowboarding. Shoot, I don't know. I mean, most of my fans, kind of got to see a bit of my personality on the Ultimate Fighter. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a little bit of better idea about my personality and who I am versus like other fighters that weren't on the Ultimate Fighter because they were, able to see a little bit of insight to kind of my daily routine and my life and things of that nature.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Ultimate Fighter. I was almost forgot about that too. Um, Seeing it on TV is awesome. All the drama and stuff like that. Uh, can you break the fourth wall, quote unquote? Is there anything that they try to push? Is there people trying to egg stuff on the cameraman? I mean, is there lights heavily shining on you while stuff is going on? How is the situation with it?
There's not really too much egging on the producer side. They videotape 24/7, so obviously they can get annoying. Not necessarily to me, but
Yeah,
they're gonna catch everything that's going on. And being in the house with a bunch of other dirty dudes that
testosterone.
yeah, things can kind of a little bit of frustrations and tensions grow between people, and then things kind of overflow a little bit. But yeah, they're there just to film. The cameraman is there to film. We're supposed to act like they're not even there, and vice versa. They do the same with us. So they act like they never really try to push us to do anything. We get put in some awkward situations that I know the UFC and the producers are putting us in these situations
Yeah.
just to maybe see if we start talking and things start to escalate a little bit. But honestly, it's just it's all pretty natural how things occur in there.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, again, appreciate that insight. I've always wanted to know how that kind of stuff worked out. Um, you talked about Tony Ferguson and that your style is similar to his. Who are some of your favorite fighters to watch currently right now?
Dominic Cruz has always been kind of one of my favorites. Tony Ferguson's, obviously is a fan favorite too. He's one of those guys that's just tough as nails.
Yeah,
You know, I would say those are kind of my top two guys. I'm a fan of anybody. I mean, Poirier and Dan Hooker. I mean, any guy that's willing to,
crazy.
really just put it all on the line and just, and then not, kind of throw caution out of the wind. Those are my type of fighters. Guys like Damian Maia who kind of built the career up the jiu-jitsu, which is amazing. And I totally respect and, admire his abilities on the ground, but he's not my type of fighter. I want to do this, bring it out a little bit, and actually put a fight on, and not a grappling match. But so I would say anybody kind of favors the striking and the brawling out a little bit is more my favorite. Just like all the other fan favorites too.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just real quick about the heavyweight division. With Stipe and Daniel Cormier, there's a possibility that both of them might retire. Just in your fan perspective, who do you think's gonna come out on top in that fight?
Oh, for the third fight?
Yeah, I think it's next month if I'm not mistaken.
Oh man, I mean it's a tough one. I would but I think I'd have to give it to Cormier.
Hmm.
He just he was able to finish Stipe. The first time they fought, and so I think he could do that again. But obviously, if those guys end up retiring, I think the next guy on the pedestal is going to be Ngannou. That guy's just an absolute monster, and just hits with an incredible force.
I'm scared of that guy. Like I've never met him, and I'm scared of him. He's crazy. I mean,
He
he's just
trains.
so.
He trains here in Vegas, and I see him on a regular basis. The guy he's a giant, man. He's out of this world.
Yeah, I was talking to Keith Lee last week, and he was telling me that he's like super nice, right? But that
Yeah.
he said stuff out of context, like he doesn't get like American humor. He'll talk about killing somebody in the octagon and everybody's laughing and he's not laughing. It's just like, man, that sounds so scary, dude.
Oh yeah, he's a scary dude, that's for sure.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Um, last one of the last things, I know you took that fight on 5 days notice. You have that cut on your eye. If push came to shove, when's the soonest you can fight again?
Well, they have me under a suspension for 30 days
Yeah.
minimum, just because of my eye, and then
Mhm.
and they're trying to give those out for like tough fights, and obviously my fight was pretty tough, but
Yeah.
I think it's like 30 to 45 days suspension. So um, I would just assume that it's probably 45, just to, just to be safe. But that puts me kind of mid July or mid August.
Hmm.
So I'm hoping to fight September sometime. I mean, I know the UFC's planning to have like fights like every weekend once they get back. So I think it's going to be pretty open for me to kind of pick and choose, kind of the time that I would want to fight. But I would assume you guys could see me fight again. I would say probably late September.
Okay, so you're not trying to take that much break then.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, once you're in shape and ready to go, it's just better to keep that train moving. Obviously, I'm gonna take a little bit of time and let things heal up and enjoy myself a little bit. But I try not to stay too much out of the gym because it's easy to put on the extra weight and that makes it harder. I don't want my fight camp to be a weight cut camp. I'd rather have it just be focused on getting ready for a fight and just keeping my body in shape. And that way, I can just focus on little details that I really need to be a certain guy. Depending on who I could get matched up with.
No, yeah, no, definitely. And we're definitely looking forward to it. Since you did win this fight, and like we talked about earlier, you were in the UFC and cut, then back in, and so forth. Was winning this fight? Did you feel an enormous amount of pressure, or did you go into it just like any other fight?
No, I mean it was for me. I had nothing to lose really. I mean I'd already been cut from the UFC a bunch of times. I figured if I lost this fight, I was gonna get cut anyways. And I also figured even if I won this fight, I might still get cut because I've been cut so many times. So uh, honestly, it kind of took the pressure off. I just went in there and just had a good time. I just told myself that I wanted to step in there and just enjoy myself. And because once I'm having a good time, then another fight's going my way. And so being able to do that, being able to just showcase how I am in the gym and let it translate to the octagon is really what made me happy about that night. Was just being able to show everybody that because I do that every day in the gym, man. If you come and watch me train, you'll see that I'm a pressure fighter. My cardio, my conditioning is through the roof, and I'm just glad that I was able to translate that so well on Saturday night in the octagon.
No, yeah, for sure, man. And like you said, you thought if I win, even if I win, I might get cut. But being that you won in great fashion, was it just a sigh of relief, thinking like, hell yeah, this is it, I got it?
100%.
Yeah,
That's winning a fight is probably one of the best feelings in your life, especially being a fighter. But obviously making it be such an exciting fight the way it happened, and then being able to finish him in a Darce Choke, like
yep,
I'd been thinking about I'd been thinking about that the last few days right before I fought him. I was like, oh, I know I can Darce Choke this kid if we get on the ground at all. So
yep.
being able to make that plan work out, it's just such a short time of knowing that I was fighting, and then and then to get a bonus and win in the UFC like that, it just it can be overwhelming, and it had to be one of the happiest times of my life and one of the best fights for me too, that I can remember.
Yeah, and we're happy for you, man. You've given us way more time than I anticipated. I really do appreciate it, man. It's our pleasure. Before we go, do you have anything you want to say? Any last words? The floor is yours right now.
Oh yeah, man. Obviously, I want to shout out to all my friends and family, and all the fans out there that have given me positive feedback. All the guys that have been doing interviews, taking time out of your guys' day to, kind of spread my word. I appreciate you guys, but I really want to thank Iridium Sports and Jason House, because without him, this wouldn't have been possible. He's been a man on a mission to get me back in the UFC, and he's the type of manager that works just as hard as I do in the gym. So. I definitely need to thank him, but obviously all my coaches, all my training partners, all my family, everybody that as well. But he's the one who really put this work in and got me there.
Great to hear that, and shout out to them. And hey, we're a big fan of yours. We're rooting for you. Can't wait for your next fight. Wish you the best of health. Hopefully that recovers real quick. You look great already. It looks like you're You're pretty good. You're pretty good. Again, man, thanks. We appreciate it. We're a very, very minute, tiny podcast, so we appreciate any time you give us. We do
I
deeply.
appreciate you.
Thank you, man. We appreciate it. Have a great day, man, and keep kicking ass.
All right, take care, man. Peace out.